back by popular demand. I have my incredible psychic teacher, Aimee Johnson, back on the podcast. You were only here a few weeks ago, and now it's like everyone wants to hear more. I feel like we just skimmed the surface of all the things that you need to share. And so we're back because we need to be, we have to be, you need to say more. So we're going to flow with our conversation this morning. But let's start here. Hi, Aimee.
Hi, Allie. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
I had, and I'm sure you did, I'm so curious, but the amount of response from this podcast and the amount of people reaching out and wanting to work with you. And then I always love a post Aimee chat too, where people are like, whoa, I just talked to Aimee. And I love hearing, just how mind blown people are. So thank you so much for offering what you do offer and for coming back on the podcast to share more.
Nice. I like that. Well, on that note, I will say one, I'd love to offer some gratitude because people seeking information or self-improvement or consciousness or self-healing, it keeps that's the only reason why my business even exists. So I just want to kind of, we're going to bust a tear. Careful. But for real, imagine if nobody cared and everybody just was content being a grumpy, unhealed piece of shit, just to get a little Aimee in the game early on, warm everybody up. So no, for real, to the audience and to everybody, I'm super grateful. I have a happy, satiated life, and it's directly as a result of my ability to do my work. And this was like my dream, to just be free and just like read energy. So anyway, thanks to everybody out there. It's been really fun.
Yeah. And the reason I think you're back on so quickly is because there was so much demand, and you had sent me a text maybe last Friday and you were like in your meditation and just kind of wanted to get it out. But I think it's a really nice place to start. And it's connected with this idea of living with the in congruence or the speed of Mother Earth or nature. Can you explain that? Because I feel like you texted me and I was like, yeah, that's cool, but I can't wait to hear what you really have to say about that. Because I know personally, and I know so many people, we're running around with so much urgency and we're like overdoing it. We're pushing, we're forcing. We're pushing the river. I think that's one of your Aimee-isms. But can you explain what that's all about?
Yeah, I love Push the River. I definitely did not make it up. I don't know who did, but I can't take credit for it. And that is a really great way to start. And I think a great place to start is in present time. So we hear all this stuff. There's Eckhart Tolle or Tolle or whatever. And I'm not that well read on, I get my information through my work. So I'm sure there's a million references to present time living. And so, living at the speed of nature is another way of saying present time living. And even another way to describe it, which gives like a physical space to be within your own self, is the central channel. And I know we probably got a lot of yogis on the channel, certainly from what I've experienced. And so I feel like a lot of people know what that central channel is, and not to be off color, we're not even at happy hour yet, but it goes from the perineum up to the top of the head. I'm a teenage boy on the inside. Everybody knows. So anyway, I'm going to talk about butts right now, coochies right now. But it's that central channel, and there's a lot of things I like about it. Number one, it is where, present time exists, if you will, in your body. It's just and it's in the center of everything. So I like to visualize it just in the absolute center from whatever angle you look at with your aura. It's like the dead center from every single angle. So this concept of physically being in your body in present time, it's like that central channel is like what I like to say, hug a tree, And I know some of us in our generation know what that means, but I had some of the younger generation be like, what does that mean? Where it means if you're lost, hug a tree and then you can be found. That's kind of how we learned it. So the central channel is, I think, the first point of focus to understand what it is to live both in present time and at the speed of life, or at the speed of Earth, or at the speed of Mother Nature, So where, as you mentioned, we're taught to race. We're taught to leave present time for the future, and then the healing context is only the shit in the past. So we're right. Like, so we're dealing with, we're constantly being pressed or encouraged to go into push, like you said, we call it going into push, where you're in push, and it literally looks like someone with their face pressed up against the glass of their aura, just like, ugh, right? So we're like, well, let's come on back. Let's find that central channel. Let's breathe into the perineum, and then welcome to present time. And I like that way that the guides explain it, because it's not really that nuts. When you start trying to conquer the mind, or, you know, slow the freight train of thinking down, that's like a mountain for most people, and it will deter them from even attempting. It's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do it for a nanosecond, let alone a meaningful amount of time. So fuck it. I'll just go back to whatever I was doing to distract myself from this, right? So I like when they, and you know, my game is like efficiency and bite size. I'm like, we don't need to climb Mount Everest if it's just a speed bump. Let's just take it as a speed bump and take the win. So the central channel is the physical center, if you will, of present time, and a great way to just be like, I don't know, I'm weird today. Maybe I'm an asshole today. Maybe I'm sad and anxious today. I don't know what to do with myself today, but I know where that central channel is, because I know enough to know where the top of my head and my perineum is. So let me just go there. If all else fails, I'll just go there, you know, and work my way out. So central channel, present time in the body. And then this living at the speed of nature thing, I like to use the redwood as an example, or like the giant sequoias. I'd only ever been to the sequoias once, but they, like, imagine if we put like a camera in front of them, you know, where it's like, I don't even know what would happen over like a 24-hour or 48-hour, like, I don't know if it would even be perceivable that they're growing, right? But then you look at them and you're like, you're obviously growing. I mean, they're behemoths of existences, you know, like the matter. So I kind of, it's like, I like, for me personally, and the metaphor that resonates with me and that I've taught before, is like to live at the speed of a redwood. Like, it's growing, it's evolving, it's moving, man. Things are happening, like, in a grand, beautiful way. It's just sometimes imperceivable to the moment. So here we go, thinking I gotta be gaining my self-esteem through productivity, right? Ding, everybody write that down, because that will save you some time on your readings, because we're going to probably talk about that. But that's, you know, and as a side caveat to plug into this self-esteem, you know, through productivity, that's capitalistic. It's fine. Like, we live in capitalism. Most of the people probably, you know, here, I won't speak to other economic systems that I've never lived in because I don't know about them, but I won't speak against capitalism. I won't speak against anything. I just say, hey, this is what's up, so know it intimately and then adjust accordingly. Like, I live in capitalism. I'm a capitalist. I make profit, man, and I expand my profit each year. So I'm a capitalist technically based on that. But we can't let capitalism or the economic structure creep over into the emotional body, right? And that's very much the case in our society, where self-esteem, that's emotions, right? How we feel about ourselves, is tied in with productivity, with getting shit done, and hopefully earning a bunch of money while doing it. I mean, that's I think the average sort of set point. So when we talk about living at the speed of nature, or earth, or animals, or trees, or plants, living at the speed of life, otherwise known, then you literally pull back, you click into that center channel, and you listen to the moment. And then you start to get your information from present time awareness, instead of the programmed mind that says you have no value unless you have produced something today, unless you've been busy today. Business, busyness, business, busyness. They just tell you right to your face, we're going to keep you busy. We're going to keep you distracted from your consciousness. I mean, they tell people point blank right to their face, you know. So it's a matter of coming off that pain train, so to speak, and getting your self-esteem or your value from self-awareness, from your connection with the moment, and living accordingly, according to what, say, God or love or life or vital life force energy or your own consciousness or yourself as spirit or breath. It's literally all the same exact thing with just infinite number of names. It's the flow of life. It's what's making us alive right now, whatever the fuck you call that, right? That's the speed we need to live at, and it is infinitely more productive. Last thing I'll say is that in this busyness, I never did read the book. I'm going to fully disclose that. But in my real estate days, I came across a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. I never did read it. Don't know what the fuck it says, but it made plenty of sense. I took that book at its cover because I was like, nailed it, because it's so much busyness. And I think a lot of people can relate that they're just moving stuff to move stuff. They're just pushing matter to push matter so they can somehow say, I have a value. I did something today, like I want to drink a glass of wine as a reward for all my hard work today, or I want to go spend my money as a reward for all my hard work today. So what that's collectively known as is punishment and reward. So we go punish ourselves doing something we don't want to do, but we think we have to for self-esteem, through productivity and money. And then we go and spend all that money, like most people do, on rewarding ourselves for the fact that we punished ourselves. So living at the speed of life shall replace, hopefully, in theory, punishment and reward.
I can just imagine people listening to this like on their drive to work and just being like, damn, that's exactly how I'm living. That's exactly what I'm doing with my time, my energy, and money. And I get really caught up here too in the productivity equals worth conversation. This is something I've been trying to deprogram. And I'm curious, we're talking about capitalism. It's a reality. It's what we live in. And I think there's a lot of people that want to like fight against it and say no. And I'm curious, like how I don't even know how to articulate this, but how do you make peace with capitalism? And I know you always say, I pay my bills, I do my thing, you work within it, but you're still free. And I think that's where people are trying to get to. It's like, there's a reality here. I likely can't change it, but how do I be free within the system?
God, great question. Yeah. So first thing we're going to have to touch on again is this resistance concept, right? So, and I guess I'll just say resistance / acceptance, because I don't like to say versus, because we got to stay out of conflict. Like, less resistance and versus is resistance. So, and with that said, you can't battle resistance with resistance. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the number one concept in understanding how to work within a larger system that maybe you don't agree with, right? Like, I don't agree with capitalism in a lot of ways. I don't agree with the need for constant expansion, meaning last year we were 10% profitable. We have to be 20% profitable this year. And then we have to be 30%. I mean, look at Boeing. Look, there's a lot of examples of where that constant expansion is just, implodes on oneself. If you don't have a foundation underneath constant expansion, just like a building or a universe, it will collapse in on itself, right? So I don't agree with everything within capitalism. That's just one example. I think we all are shaking hands on this. We don't need another one, but there's some stuff that's not really viable for happiness and health within humanity. So with that said, our instinct, what we're taught in a warlike society, because we're a warlike people, right? We're taught to resist, protest, fight back, right? And there's a time and a place. I'm not going to naysay protesting. I'm not going to naysay this like need to revolt, because sometimes in the third dimension without consciousness, that's what it takes. They're going to bomb you or you're going to bomb them. I mean, and I know we're kind of in a cushy reality here. And so I'm taking global, consideration that not everybody's got it so easy. So with that said, they go like, well, if the pyramid's what we're fighting, right? So all the power at the top, right? With 1%, or there's a lot of names for it, right? Well, then early on in my career, they said, don't even try and resist the top. Don't even resist, man. They said, just start working with the base. Just work with the people, man, and get them woken up. And so, again, I'll say it again, just as a rule, resistant, you can't, what is it? Buddha said, hate never yet dispelled hate. Well, resistance never yet dispelled resistance. When you fight resistance with resistance, you just get more resistance. And then joke's on you because they have all the money anyway, and you're just fucking fighting a losing battle against somebody you'll never even meet. So acceptance has to be the first thing. I accept how capitalism is, right? So I have a high credit score because it makes shit easier. Because then I can go buy a fucking truck if I need to. Just make stuff easier. That's why. And I am about number one. I'm about keeping it easy for Aimee. I'm not going to be like, fuck that guy with his yacht. You don't know that guy with his yacht. So let's just be smart on our own behalf. And so coming out of resistance and entering acceptance, okay, I accept that they're going to bomb some kid somewhere today with my money. That's probably happened since we've been on the call. I accept that. and then I'll dedicate my life towards freedom, truth, and compassion. So I won't hold a grievance against somebody who I think has wronged me. I'll be like, all right, bro, I accept how you are. I'll either come towards you if I appreciate that behavior, or I will straight up go away from you if I don't appreciate that behavior. We have choice. So consciousness equals choice means when you become conscious of something, when you become deeply aware of how it works, right, you have choice. And so I move around the system freely because I make it easy on Aimee by following some of the rules, the ones that are necessary, right? Like I pay my taxes and I do the things, and it's not for anybody else other than me. I do it for me so that I don't have to feel stressed, so that I don't have to feel scared, so that I don't have to stay in conflict on the inside of me, so I don't have to be fucking pissed all the time. I mean, it's easy enough to be, but I'm the only one who fucking even knows about that. Nobody knows if you're pissed. You know, Bob, well, I don't know if there's any Bobs listening. Aaron, I don't know, just making sure that it's like, bro, nobody even knows how you feel but you right now. So we have to be smarter about how we're engaging with the world. Enter resistance, you're going to suffer. Enter resistance, you're swimming upstream. Enter resistance, you're going to compound the problem that you're pissed off about in the first place, right? So consciousness equals choice. We have a choice. Choose acceptance. And I always suggest, as you know, never to take my word for it. I'm like, just practice. Go out and take one day where you're practicing this relationship with resisting what's happening, resisting the traffic in front of you, resisting the tailgater behind you, resisting the prices at the grocery store, right? Or just your resistance didn't prevent any of that anyway. It's not like the dude with the big truck was like, I'm feeling some vibes off that car in front of me. Maybe I should be compassionate and back the fuck up. That's not what happens. Like, I'm the only one who know, right? It's like, so resistance doesn't create change. And I think that's one of the biggest things where consciousness equals change. Consciousness equals choice. So when you become aware, then, all right, I'll just pull over, man, and I'll let this guy going. He's going faster than me. He wants to go at the speed of capitalism. Instead of the speed of life, whatever. Right? So I'll just get the fuck out of the way, right? I don't need to be like, he's a dick. I'm gonna slow down on purpose so that and we become a very antagonistic people in America, right? Yeah. We're into antagonizing people. That's just another way of resisting, right? It's like, all right, well then waste all your energy, waste all your time because you can't build shit with resistance, right? Consciousness equals choice. So I know that was I didn't know it was going to go that long, but as we got into this, I really love this conversation. So acceptance is how you deal with capitalism. And then the last thing I'll say that I get a lot is how to make that transition. Bravery. Just fucking do it. It's a big piece. People want to negotiate. They want it to be more complicated. They want some secret. That's why I get so much business. They're like, well, a psychic's going to know some secret I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'm going to know a lot of shit you don't know about yourself, but not this. Yeah, This is simple. You want to go start a yoga studio? Girl, you better start finding a place. Buy some yoga mats secondhand, clean them off, and open the goddamn doors. There's just no, and that's the leap is people go, but money, I can't do it, but money. It's like, yeah, you can. You know what I mean? When I had my full-time real estate job, I just started building my real estate business while I had my full-time real estate job. I don't know about the morals or ethics behind that, but I don't get involved in the 6 no-go words. I just followed my little heart, was brave enough to set myself free, and there isn't anything more romantic than that. And finally, when this is a thing. It's like, I feel like the book, The Alchemist, I have it right here. For those of you who have read it, the main concept is something along the lines of, like, when you have dreams, the entire universe conspires on your behalf. Coming back to the speed of life, life does seem to match us. Life high fives back. It just does. We're not out here in some desolate desert, with some God hoping for our death. Life is neutral. Life is just energy, and it is pulsing at astronomical, we couldn't even perceive how much the earth is pulsating with vital life force energy, how much the cosmos are shining on us. We couldn't even perceive it. So there's so much energy at our disposal. And if you'll just come out of resistance of your little, like, well, I can't because of this. Well, I could never because of that. Well, I've got kids. Well, paycheck. Well, it's like, that's all resistance. Follow your heart. Take a meaningful step. Arrive there. Then take another meaningful step. Arrive there. Then take another meaningful step. And then life is just, you put $5 in your 401k, fucking life puts $5 in your 401k. It matches. And what I've experienced is added to it. And I don't advertise, everybody knows that. this one little hour took an hour of my time, and I connect with a whole bunch of new people. It's not as hard as it seems. You just got to be gutsy enough to do it, and you got to get your self-esteem from your own fucking thinking, not from your sense of capitalistic productivity.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I have so many thoughts. When I was 20, a spiritual teacher had told me like life balances itself. Everything is perfect right now. And in my 20-year-old brain, I was like, but there's war and people died and people kill babies. And I was so like in resistance to that. And then it took years and years later. And then I met you and you said something similar. Life knows how to balance itself. Mm-hmm. And it's still a tricky concept, I think, for me to really process and understand. And I think a lot of the times when people hear this, it's like, oh, well, that's all good and well. And like you said, it's this like, but. And I think that I'm really starting to, kind of break that concept down. It's like you had said something like someone doing this one thing in Afghanistan today is going to have an effect on you or me, or, everything is balancing itself somewhere, somehow. And so really our only work is what we're doing here inside. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, really good point. You pick up those threads so well, and I appreciate that. Like, life does seek to balance itself. I really like this. And again, pulling from the thread of like, dropping the judgmental system of thinking, good, bad, right, wrong, shouldn't, are 6 no-go words, right? So when you drop that, you realize that life is not really moral or ethical. It doesn't mean that we can't adopt those belief systems, which people do, and it makes them feel good about themselves, right? Like, I'm ethical. I know what's right. It's like, all right, cool. That's subjective. But anyway, cool. And I always use the joke, like, Jupiter doesn't get to exist because he's a great guy. Like, it just, existence is existence. And we're kind of, maybe we know why, which I do think we'll touch on that. Hopefully, if you remember to ask me, go from fear to love. That's the reason for existence. But, or humans anyway. But if you'll notice, life was before us. Life will inevitably be after us. Even if we destroy this planet we're on, it's gonna, even if you kill the fucking thing, it'll still break up into, I don't know, asteroids or something, and gravity will pull it towards a new sun. Something's gonna happen before and after us. The universe exists, and it's not contingent on me, and it's not contingent on anybody listening. That's like, I feel like a big note for Americans, because we get really, at least, and I'm not trying to talk shit, I'm just saying North America is what I can speak to because it's where I've been, right? It's like we really think, but me though. No, but me, my problems, my existence, right? It's like, no, all physical existence operates on quantum physics. It operates on physics, on mathematics, and this is an ever-expanding universe. And so, like, life doesn't care about us as much as we care about us. Life is like, listen, I'm going to exist, and I'm going to expand, and I don't fucking care what's in my way. A volcano will blow up on your guys' dumbass. I'll drown you in the ocean, even when you were young and handsome still. Like, life is not really ethical or moral or ethical if you try and prove it. And I'm kind of scientifically minded or mathematically minded, and so shit's got to add up as far as I'm concerned. So all that to say, that life seeks balance so that it can continue, so that it can exist, and it doesn't seem to care. It's real neutral on that fact. It's like, well, you can go with me or you can go against me. I'm gonna win. Have you met me? I'm all of existence. This is life talking. I'm gonna win against your little resistance. And that's where people break, man. That's where life comes in and goes, I told you 12 fucking times I tried to get you to adjust towards balance. You didn't do it, so now I drop kicked you. Like, yeah. And that seems to be how life kind of is. And it's our job to adjust to life, not life's job to adjust to our fears. And I'll say that one more time. It's our job to evolve to the speed of life. It's our job to evolve to the fucking quantum physics, the mathematics of life. It's not life's job to accommodate and bend to our fears. And that never really works.
Yeah, and that does bring us to this question. And I had asked a few people, what do you want to ask Aimee? And it was even my question as I was going to sleep last night, is like, what is the purpose of life? If we're going to live in this little blip in this body and like struggle and be in fear and be like climate change and the election and war and all these things that bog us down. I think so many people, and I, in the work that I do, especially with young people, that is their big question. And there's a lot of, in terms of mental health or depression or suicidal ideation is such a huge one, especially for the younger generation, is like, what if I didn't exist? What if I'm not here? And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there. Let me see where we're going to start. Say it again.
Yeah. What's the point of life?
There you go. That's the one I needed. Thank you. Yeah. Just because a lot floods in when we're talking. So on a third dimensional, because we got to talk dimension, so don't let me forget. But on a third dimensional level, the reality that we live in, it seems to be, and this is what the guides have told me, right? And it does seem to be provable over the 18 years I've been doing this job. So where it's like we go from fear to love, right? And I feel like we've heard that. I feel like that's probably really common out there, probably yogis. I feel like that's a common kind of spiritual ideology. But notice we're taught to fear. And it's interesting because if the larger premise is we need to evolve, that if all of life is doing nothing else but constantly evolving, right? Constantly moving. The wind is blowing, our blood is pumping, constant change, constant movement, and evolution or de-evolution. So if evolution is sort of the point of life, is what life is trying to do. It's like, I'm going to move and change today. You keep up or don't, right? Then we're taught fear. We're totally taught fear. I don't think anybody's even questioning that anymore. It's like, even today, the news, it's like everything you listen to, every single thing is just fear-based. So we're taught to have survival fear and a bunch of other fears. So then what's the whole game we're doing here? Love, as we defined, I think in the other podcast, if not, I'll say it again, or for the first time, but love equals vital life force energy is how it was taught to me. It's like, it doesn't equal a sentiment. It doesn't equal an emotion. It's a state of being in which you are accepting and receiving all the vital life force energy that's being offered to you today. There's a certain amount of vital life force energy that comes into this body each day. I can do things that allow for that, like stretching and breathing and accepting and staying in present time. Ooh, yeah, ooh, I could get full. Or I could fight against that game and like receive less of it. So if we're talking about, we're taught fear for this deeper intrinsic purpose. We could be mad at the man for it, sure, but that gives the man a lot of credit. It's like, oh, where did he get that fucking idea, right? It came from somewhere. And the deeper reason for why things seem to happen is like, well, let's teach them all fear, because then they'll evolve towards love, and we need to exercise that muscle. And it seems just on behalf of evolution, because if creation doesn't evolve, it stagnates, it rots. Change is necessary. Like the tides move. Everything is changing constantly. It's required for life, right? So they teach us fear so that we can evolve into love. And we're all pissed about the way things are on the third dimension, but this is what it is on the third dimension. The third dimension is like the third chakra. It seems to coordinate first dimensional living, second dimensional living, third dimensional living. So in the third dimension where we all live, it's about power. So the third chakra is the power chakra, willpower. There's a lot of ways you could describe it, but it's about power. And you'll notice in our world at large, it's not really even about money. Us middle-class folks are kind of obsessed with money because that's how they are, puppet stringing us. But you'll notice the people at the top that have all the money and have wildly excessive amounts of money they could never even spend, like, it's about power, right? So accepting the third dimension and even war is a power struggle. So everything that we, in this context of the journey from fear to love, us passing through the third dimension is just a certain aspect of one's evolution, of a soul's evolution. And so we're here to learn how to deal with power, personal power, right? And how to have, I would argue, I'm not going to state this as a fact, but power within instead of power over. Power over is a fear derivative, right? Comes from being afraid. We have to control the oil pipeline or we're not going to have enough, right? We got to make sure the kid stays inside because we're afraid something's going to happen to her. I'm just making shit up, obviously. But within this context, so learning personal power, I have the power to choose, like we mentioned earlier. I can choose my thoughts. That's one of the most powerful engagements one can make with themselves, is like, I can choose my thoughts. Are we heavily programmed to hate ourselves and to be afraid and to hate each other? Yeah, totally. But now we're putting it on blast. Everybody friggin' knows. You know what I mean? Like 18 years ago, you couldn't say half this shit to nobody. Like, what? Rude. Like, I'm gonna hug a tree at my job and tell you to fuck off. Now people are catching on. Like, dude, like, we're programmed to be afraid. So personal power seems to be the name of the game, and why we exist, I think, is relative to the dimension that you've incarnated to, because the fifth dimension, other dimensions don't look the same. Like the fifth dimension, I don't know much about it, but it looks like unconditional love. It looks like Aurora Borealis and like crystals and shit like that, and like a lot of feminine energy. And there's just, it's almost like you have to drop your hate to get there. So we have to drop our grievances. We have to drop our dross. That's an alchemical term, alchemical term. We have to drop our resistances and to elevate, to be buoyant enough, to be enlightened enough, light, right? Light enough to get up to the higher dimensions of consciousness. And then, so it's said, we cycle up, then we plop right back down, and we fucking do it all again, and then we plop right back down, right? And that does seem to be the infiniteness of time and existence, as far as my tiny little human mind can perceive it.
And I think what I'm catching on to is this idea of like 10 years ago, it was sort of, or 20 years ago, this conversation around self-hate and self-esteem wasn't even in the water. And then I think, you know, when I started working with teens all those years ago, it was like so much of the work was on just like love yourself and yay. And now it feels like the work is even heavier because it's like they're willing to admit, yeah, I do hate myself. Yeah, I'm really fucking depressed. Yeah, life is hard, and it's there, but almost to a point where there's over identification. My doctor said I have a, you know, depression disorder and anxiety disorder. And I see this a lot with Gen Z, but even in our generation too, where you start to wear these identities like a, you know, it's like this safety blanket. And it's almost like cool or trendy to be depressed, and cool or trendy. And I'm saying this like I'm holding that lightly, but you know what I mean? There's this sort of trend of, I hate myself. Whereas 10 years ago, that would be embarrassing to say. And everyone's like, yeah, this sucks. I hate life. Like the world is on fire. And what's the whole point? So to say, yeah, it's to go from fear to love. But it's like, how do you tell like a 14-year-old that?
Yeah.
I mean, I try and I do my best. But yeah, when someone is in so much pain.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, again, you asked dynamic questions, so there's probably like, if we did this 5 times, we might get 5 different dynamic answers. Like kind of like when you see an accident from 10 different angles, we have different accounts. But the first thing, I think I wasn't even going to start here, and I might ask you to cue me up again because I don't want to lose the first thing. But narcissism pushed its way in line. So it's narcissism, right? We're so narcissistic these days. They are just pumping narcissists out. America #1. Entitlements, like everything. We're such a rich country, and if you've never been anywhere else, we just simply don't know, you know, like we just don't know what we have. So, you know, when they've got everything in there, have overdoting parents, you know, and infantilizing parents that just teach them that they, you know, don't have to do shit for themselves, right? There's nothing else to do with their energy but turn in on themselves and fucking feel sorry for themselves. So the narcissism is a huge thing. And I will say that, and everyone, you know, whatever, I'll just say that self-hatred is self-obsession. It's just like some, you know, athlete who's just like, I'm the best, everybody can suck my dick, or whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to like imagine the like, you know, egoiest person I've ever met. I don't know. Right. So that's, I think, one of the tricks is like, oh, it's kids of self-hate. Like you said, it's trendy to self-hate. Oh, the pendulum. So it's narcissism. Self-hatred is narcissism. It just is. It's self-obsession. And we think, oh, the world's either out to get us, or nobody loves us, or no, I've caught no breaks, or everything's against me. I'm a victim, giant victim, narcissist baby. And I use that language because I'll tell you what, you grab a hold of that on the inside of yourself. If anybody out there that's listening to this feels sorry for themselves, I would go ahead and walk over to the mirror, slap yourself in the face, or punch yourself in the dick, and check that shit super quick, man. Because there's just no other way to break through that. You are overly cared for, probably. And even if you're a homeless dude on the street, like, there's some shit that led up to that, right? There's probably some self-obsession or some unconsciousness or something that led up to that. And for what it's worth, I donate money to charity. I feed old people in my community. So I'm not saying, oh, it's your fault. I'm saying that narcissism is the problem and self-hatred is right in that umbrella. The other thing I'll say, is the pendulum effect. So like you talked about, say 10, 20 years ago, we couldn't admit it. So we were in full denial, like, no, capitalism's not a problem. No, like, whatever. Like, we'll just use your example, right? So in healing, the pendulum effect happens where we're all the way over here, right? I hate myself and I'm completely unconscious to it. So then we have to swing all the way to like, I hate myself and I'm totally self-identified with it. Trauma, right? 10, 20 years ago, people were like, I need to heal. I don't know. What? No, I don't think so. Now everyone's like, I need to heal. I'm super traumatized because trauma is so the hot button, hot ticket fucking trend right now. And I'm not even on social media, so I can only fucking imagine. This is just runoff I hear where I'm like, oh, so trauma's trendy? Good to know. So it's that pendulum effect where we got to go all the way over here to find the middle. You can never go from this extreme to the middle. It doesn't work. You got to go from this extreme to this extreme, and then we find balance. So that's kind of my running of the mouth on that.
There's so much goodness in there. Self-hate is narcissism. You heard it here first. That's the first time I've heard that and made that connection, but it makes so much sense. And it is interesting, that runoff that you pick up on, because those of us that are on social media or on the internet in this way, it's like, yeah, it's trauma, everything's trauma informed, and you can't say that. And there's so much barrier to identity and how people can speak to each other. And it's just become this place where, like you said, we implode on ourselves. Well, if I can't say that, I don't know who to be. I don't know how to be. And then it sort of leads to this thing around existence. Then again, this question of, well, what's the point? And I did touch on it a little bit, this idea of suicidal ideation, especially in young people, where it's like, well, why live?
Yeah. Love that. To contribute. Yeah, write it down, because that's the thing, is like, if the journey is from fear to love, well then fine, don't exist. You know what I mean? Like, no one's gonna care about your parents maybe for a little. Like, I just mean to say, we're so overinflated on our individualized importance instead of contributing to the oneness, to the wholeness, right? If I think new, fresh, loving thoughts today, then I get the consequence in my emotional body. So here I am, I'm like, I'm a human, man. I don't have a family. Like, I've had a tough life, so to speak. So I get it. I'm not just sitting up here in a cloud of money that my fucking dad gave me. I don't even fucking know where my dad lives. So I get it, right? We're all surviving our childhood existence, right? Whatever it was. Because spoiled kids are anxious as fuck, right? Neglected kids are anxious as fuck. It don't much matter what your childhood was. We're all recovering from it. So write it down. We know, okay? We know. You're validated, whoever you are, okay? Right? So what's the point is contribution. If we're so bummed at all of our trauma and how shitty we've all been treated by the parents that worked real fucking hard to raise us in most cases, right? If we're so bummed, I just want to kill this body and fuck everybody else, right? And how it's going to make them feel, right? Like, if it's just so bad, right? Well, then you're a part of the problem. You're contributing negativity, you're contributing hopelessness, you're contributing laziness. You don't want to do no work to feel better. Choose new thoughts, choose new actions. Go fucking feed a homeless person today, like we said. Go find a kid who needs some shoes. I don't know, go paint a mural in an ugly neighborhood. I don't know, go pick up some trash. There's this lady that walks around these dangerous highways I live on. We have no sidewalks in my crazy, windy road mountain town. This lady, after every weekend, all the tourists come up and leave their dirty diapers and all the weird crap. She just walks along the highway and just picks it all up. And nobody knows even who she is hardly. You know what I mean? So if we're asking what the point of existence is, the point of existence is oneness, to contribute something meaningful and something in contrast to what your sad story is. If you don't like feeling depressed, well, then go create joy. If you don't like feeling, fat and useless, well, then go fucking exercise, eat some cool food that day, and be useful, right? So I know that's not everybody's bag, because they're self-obsessed with their trauma, and that is super trendy. And because they'd rather just take a pill, because that's also super trendy, than actually face what's in their guts, but realize that we are all one, we are all connected, and that is a distinct and direct offering that you're giving. So I don't know if any of these kids like their friends. I don't know if you like your friends. I love my friends. I love my ex-wife. I love you. I love my clients. So I'm not going to take a shit in the pool that we all swim in today. If anything, I'll just sit here and clean up everybody else's turd with all my might. At least I'm doing something that's worthwhile today, instead of just being like, well, I hate being in a pool of shit, but I did just take a shit. It's like, reconcile that. You can't. Your thoughts turn into your words, turn into your actions, turn into your emotions, turn into your vibration, and the vibration is felt by all. We know that we feel other people's energy, and so why don't we contribute something in contrast to what we're so upset about?
Oh, this is so good. Yeah, this idea of contribution, I think you said it to, I sat a week in silence in the spring, and I remember having that feeling at the end of being like, that was a contribution. Like, my stillness is a contribution. And I had never felt that way before, that the doing nothing, because I literally did absolutely nothing. There was a lot of internal work, obviously, that was going on, but I was like, oh, I'm making a contribution by stopping the fucking war within myself. And I just got it in such a profound way. And so I love this sort of anecdote to all of this, is like, contribute.
Yeah. And recognize that all things are a contribution. So like I said, I can contribute hate today to the oneness, to the culture, to everybody I know, to all the animals, to the fucking planet who's alive, or I can contribute love, or anything in between. I can contribute. If I think a thought, it's a contribution. If I think a thought, it is a turd in a pool, or it is, cleaning the pool, so to speak. We are all in a collective. And I like the pool metaphor, the water metaphor, because of the emotions. And that is what it's like. It's like, we know we pick up on each other's emotions. And so what if each person, not for anybody else, but what if each person woke up today and just said, I'm only responsible for just my own self. I'm not going to worry about anybody else. I don't have a burden to fix or help or heal any fucking body else, right? But just me. I'm going to watch my thoughts. I'm going to think the highest quality, most loving thought. Even if you don't believe them, fake that shit till you make it, man, all day. That's kind of the only way it really works, right? We're going to wake up anxious. We're going to wake up in resistance. We're going to wake up afraid, right? So it's like, what if we today said, all right, well, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to be grateful to be alive. And it's really works. It's literally, even I was like anticipating my day, and I woke up, I had to pee at 3 a.m. and I'm just saying that literally you can train yourself. So it's like, I woke up and I was like nervous. My phone was blowing up. Like, it dings all night. People text me from all around the world, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful for myself. I'm so grateful for this warm bed. I'm grateful for the fan. I'm grateful for everybody who's texting me. Just train yourself to go into gratitude. And you don't have to feel it first and think it second. You think it first, and then you eventually feel it. And for a lot of us out there, that gap could be big. You're going to have to think maybe, 100,000 of these new thoughts, and then it'll start to finally take hold. But that's our contribution for today. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, no matter what they are a contribution. Other people will suffer or will thrive based on the collective contribution. And that's what everyone's fuss is about the world. Why are they doing things that I don't want them to do? It's like, where were your thoughts today, though? Where did you think today, though? Probably some really violent thoughts, and there's no accountability for that. But you want some person across the world to stop doing something they're doing, but where are you at? Where are you at today? So if everybody, in conclusion on this rant, just said, I'm going to be highly responsible for the quality of my thoughts, my words, my actions, I don't know, man. We might have a new world in, I don't know, how many days would that take? Not very long.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, will you give it, I don't know if you did this in the first podcast, but your sort of definition of responsibility. And then I wanted to touch a little on discipline too. They might be the same thing, but responsibility is.
Yeah, definitely. And they're not, and I love these questions. Yeah, an ability to respond. And in fact, on that note, as like a side caveat, language is really important,
Yeah.
Even how I say kind of, my curse words, or I don't really, whatever you call them, but it's like, I like to take bitch back. I take cunt back. I take slut back. I take these words back that have been so derogatorily used, so I'm just saying that as a side note, that language is important. And just as a side note, that's one of the reasons why I speak the way that I do. I'm like, I'm taking that back. Call me a bitch. I'll fucking call you bitch, right? Like, we're going to take it back and take the derogatoriness off of it. So it's as a side note, but it was so back to responsibility, the ability to respond. And I say that because dissecting language, you can start to get into what the real meaning of what you're saying actually is. So as we touched on earlier, consciousness equals choice. So, and we do have choice. There's not one person out there that can't choose a new thought unless you have some specific disability that it prohibits you from doing so. But the average healthy person walking around can become conscious of themselves, self-aware, and choose thoughts that make them feel the way that they want to feel. And that's the closed loop. So you have an ability to respond to the world, to respond to, say, the person that just cut you off, or to respond to your mom when she was disappointed at your life choice or whatever, right? We have an ability, and consciousness, the exercise of consciousness, because it is an exercise, we're exercising a muscle, right? Gives you that choice, the ability to choose how to respond. And it also speaks to sort of the evolution of react, right? We just react. So responsibility is sort of like the evolution where it's like, all right, I don't have to react. I have an ability to choose how I'm going to respond. And then it begs the question, like, well, how do I want to respond? Well, who do you want to be? What do you want your contribution to be? That's how you respond. And what you'll find is that it doesn't really much matter who's over there or what that person is doing. I've already decided that I'm going to respond in a neutral, observational, loving fashion, meaning I'm going to accept that person where they're at, and I'm not going to impede their behavior. I'm not going to use words that shame them, right? I'm going to accept them where they're at. I don't have to like them, and I don't got to fucking hang out with them. That's crucial to acceptance, right? But I have an ability to choose how I'm going to respond. So I recommend everybody as a homework assignment, make that decision now. Decide now what you want to, who you want to be, how you want to show up. How much integrity do you want to have? How much patience do you want to demonstrate? How much compassion do you want to run? And then simply fucking do it. And even if someone's like, you're a dumb, stupid, I hate you. Fine. I already decided, bro, that for you, it's about you. For me, it's about me. I already made the decision because that chick on the podcast told me to do it, or whatever reason. I already decided. It doesn't matter how you come at me. You're going to get the same response, which is fucking love, fucking patience. And can I do it the same every day? No. And so days when I'm a grumpy PMS bitch and I'm going to only be mean to people, I just stay home and eat ice cream, dude. That's what I was like. We don't have to be perfect all the time, but we do have to be responsible with our response. We do have to exercise the consciousness that we have the ability to respond, and that you don't want to give your power away to somebody else on how you choose to respond. Yeah. That's reaction.
Yeah. And then how does that relate then to discipline? Because discipline is another sort of teaching you've given me. And I used to think that discipline was about rigidity and intensity, but the discipline of the mind and the discipline of the thoughts. Can you speak a little bit to how discipline plays a role in our responsibility, our contribution?
Yeah, love that. And it's funny because I kind of in this moment, I just saw like disciple, you know, I'm all, I wonder if that, obviously those words must be, you know, from the same root. And like, I feel like a disciple is like a student, you know, a student of a master, not even a human, but a consciousness, mastery and consciousness. So anyway, the discipline, and the one thing I'll say in case anyone's taking notes, but discipline begets joy. I did not make that up. I feel like maybe that's Lao Tzu, maybe that's Buddha. I don't know. Picked it up somewhere along the way, and I just, you know, kept it in my tool belt this whole time because I work for myself. So I'll just touch on that, where kind of weaving together some of what we talked about is like my disciplines, not only do they beget joy because I feel great about myself when I do them, right? I'm like, okay, I woke up early instead of sleeping late, or I drank my water instead of like drinking booze, or I don't know. I ate my kale instead of like McDonald's. I don't know. Whatever it is, there's a million of them. You can pick any. But for starters, you get self-esteem from your discipline. It begets joy. You feel good about yourself if you maintain them. And then also it gives you freedom. If you can be self-disciplined, okay, I got to wake up for work at this time, right? I got to do readings tomorrow all day. So I'm not going to stay out late, and I'm not going to like be around loud music, right? That's a discipline because I know I got to work tomorrow. So it also affords freedom. And just again, touching back, not to make it too dynamic at once, but touching back on when people are like, how do I operate within capitalism and also have freedom? It's like discipline is how you do it. Self-accountability. You gotta be, and it's not that it's overly hard. I'm real fast and loose with myself. I do whatever I want every day. It's funny. I was just working with a kid yesterday, and he's kind of young and in a fun time of his life, but he's also a really great healer. And he's just like, but I don't want to stop like hanging out. I'm like, you don't have to stop hanging out, dude. I'm like, I hang out, you know, I'll go shoot some pool. I don't really shoot pool. I heckle people that are shooting pool. So full disclosure, that's kind of our gig, you know? But, we got to blow some steam off. We need some areas of permission where we have to do something indulgent, something compulsive, but only like, I try and keep it to one or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I like my tequila. Should I be 100% off tequila? I don't know, maybe. But also it's like, I might crack into 100 pieces if I don't have some sort of way to get flexibility in there, to get the steam out, to fucking get on the level with the people, I call it dumb time. I'm like, I'm dumb right now, so nobody talk to me about anything intelligent. Everybody knows. I'm like, no, I'm not Amy. I'm just a chick listening to country music right now. I'm dumb. Don't ask me nothing meaningful right now, So the disciplines is about understanding the balance there. It's not just about holding some hard line for no particular purpose or for self-hatred. It's going, what makes me thrive? What makes me feel happy? What makes me be able to stay free? And I'll kind of salt and pepper that shit into each day best I can. So that's kind of how I treat disciplines. And I think it does plug nicely into personal responsibility. It's like, because you can't put that shit on somebody else. And that is a lot of times what happens,
Yes.
Is we'll be like, I knew this couple where the one had a pretty heavy drinking problem, right? And instead of ever addressing it, like getting help or emotions or whatever, they just said, well, you're not allowed to do it. We're married now and you're just not allowed to do it. So then she would just sneak beers when the chick was in the shower. You know what I mean? It would just be like all this workaround. And then of course, when they broke up, her alcoholism went off the charts because she had no personal discipline. She hadn't developed any personal responsibility. She just gave it to the wife and said, well, she'll get mad at me if I do it. So I just don't do it in front of her. And that's a really common way of just going like, well, my boss won't let me do it, so I'm not going to do it. But if I was all on my own, I'd be shooting heroin in my fucking eyeballs. It's like, I want to address that. Maybe we should get after that. So that's kind of the initial spiel on discipline.
Yeah. And I love how this is all sort of tying together because it's being free in a capitalistic society. And so someone goes, okay, I don't want to work for my corporate job anymore. I quit my job and then I have all this time and this freedom, but then I don't know what to do with it because I don't have the discipline. And this is sort of, and bear with me because this is sort of the thread that I think needs to be pulled here is around manifestation or around then how do we create? Okay, I get out of the bad relationship or I get out of the job and I have this time. Okay, I'm going to get disciplined with my thoughts, but then how do we create?
Yeah, that I mean, man, you really pick up that thread well. There's a real specific formula for creation. Everybody's a bit different. Like generators or manifesting generators or Pisces or Virgos or so personality types. I kind of I don't study those things, but they do come into play through the channel. Right? You can see the difference between like a mental body, air sign, or like a water sign or whatever. So I don't claim to know anything necessarily about that stuff, but I think it is relevant to kind of know how you best operate, right? Yeah. Like I'm a responder. So that's one reason why I don't advertise, because it's just not, if I push, if I offer, if I initiate, then I run into resistance as a responder. And so I just wait till you guys text me and then I go, oh, I've got a response for that, Yes. So kind of knowing yourself, I think, is relevant to kind of the scenario you set forth, And then tell me the question again.
How do we manifest? How do we create?
Yeah. I'm not in trance. It's like I was like, I'm like, let me go back in here and then I can see it all. So the manifestation tools. So again, know thyself, crucial to know how to manifest and to know what manifestations are going to work for you and are sustainable. So with that said, the tools are, the first thing is neutrality. So I always, whenever I'm teaching people this, I'm like, I'll send you a recorded meditation, do that thing first. So however you got your way of getting grounded, in present time, and neutral. Grounded in your body, in present time, and neutral. Those are key. So however you do that first, right? And then we just close our little eyes and we go, okay, so what do we want to manifest? Like a truck or what? An office? What should we practice with here?
Sure. Let's manifest. Yeah. Like something physical, a truck. I actually really like when you talk about your truck. So
I'm mini truck obsessed. I love trucks. Okay. So here we go. I'm like, I'm going to do a black Tacoma today. Fuck it. Let's do it. Like a little lifted, just cute, right? I love those old school ones. So here we are, right? We'll just do it live. So again, I'm grounded, I'm neutral, and I'm present. So I'm going to envision myself having the truck. Look, I'm in the thing. I'm like, oh man, we're bouncing down my desert dirt road in it. The windows are open. She's a little busted because I like it a little busted. I like them a little crusty. So I was just going to be like, we can take this thing anywhere. We never have to waste water to clean it. This is amazing. Throw it in the bag. Hell yeah. Yeah, the dogs can come. So for me, right? And so notice this visceral experience. And I'm really doing this with you guys real time. I'll be so funny if like some black truck shows up in my driveway. I will report back. That has actually happened before, accidentally. But right, so you visualize you're in the experience of having it. So what's slight side note is the difference between wanting and having. There's a word that they made up in the technique called havingness. I don't know if it's a real word in the dictionary, but havingness, right? Because we stay in want all the time. We stay in desire all the time. And that tells, based on the principles of quantum physics, that tells energy, well, she don't have it. That's what we're saying when I want this truck. It's like what you're literally telling energy is that you do not possess the truck. Because if it's in want, you don't have it. So this havingness is crucial to manifestation and getting your mind to be like, I visualize as if I have it. And then your consciousness accepts, your subconscious or your body, all the things in between, accept it when it sees the vision. It goes, because all things started from a vision. I always use like my chair. This is my reading chair I'm sitting on. I go, hey, no, somebody didn't just like start grabbing wood and just start banging it together and hope they come out with something. They had a vision in their mind of what they were trying to create that day, right? They did the cuts, they did all the measurements with a blueprint in their mind. So all of creation comes from a blueprint, comes from an idea, from an image, right? Just like an architect or whatever, a blueprint. So you just visualize it in your mind. And they say this, that if you can sustain, they say that manifestation spontaneously occurs at 56 seconds. So it's not even that long. But if you think about sustaining your awareness on something for 56 seconds in a row, you're like, oh, I fucking never do that, right? Or I'll just worry and fear, but even those go really fast. It's like, well, I worried about this, and then I worried about that, well, then that. So sustaining simple visual focus on what it is you want to manifest for as long as you possibly can, up to a minute's the maximum you probably ever have to do it, right? And you just go, and you saw how excited I got. I was like, yeah, right? Then you get excited, like it was as if I was experiencing that, right? As far as I was concerned, my dogs were jumping in with me. I was like, let's go off-roading, you guys. Like, you saw I had an actual, and that was real. I'm not like faking it for you. That's fun for me. I'm like, my dog Thunder's right here. I'm like, what's up, buddy? Let's fucking go. So you get excited about it. And they say excitement is an accelerant for manifestation. Because again, coming back to quantum physics, if you're fucking excited about it, well, you probably have it. Right? Like, as far as neutral energy is concerned, it's just like, well, that chick's excited about that. She has a truck. I guess we'll just make a truck. Because, I mean, this is what the instruction she's giving us is. So you got to kind of add that emotional little charge to it. Excitement's the best emotion you can add to it. Final part of it, right? So we're just visualizing, oh, I'm in my truck. I got it. This is fun. This is exciting. I'm in the experience. I'm loving that. I'm hanging out. I'm doing it. We're off-roading. Like, ooh, 56 seconds. Boom. Then consciousness, or God, or truth, or your own psychic, it's all the same shit, will tell you something to do. That's what's nice about being in the trance state is you go, oh, let me check out fucking Craigslist real quick, right? And sure enough, boom, you cruise over. If you do whatever action item occurs to you, that's the step that's necessary to make that thing manifest in the third dimension. So it's essentially a two-part process. Envision and then act, but with kind of more nuances around it, where you get excited and you fucking listen. You got to listen. You got to observe what the step is. And this is a formula. This applies to any and all, right? And I've invented or manifested things I definitely couldn't afford so many times. It's not, you can't create with money. Money is a tool, but like, and I won't go on, but like this chair I'm sitting in is made of wood, man. It is not made of a stack of cash, right? These things are not, this book is a book. Somebody wrote it. It came from their creativity. It is not a stack of cash. So this obstacle people put in is like, but I need the money for the truck. It's like, not necessarily. And I, as people who work with me often, I get free shit absolutely all the time. And I make enough money to pay for all the things I need. and I still get free stuff. I've got this Forerunner sitting in my fucking driveway right now. It's probably worth $12,000. I could sell it for today. I got it for $2,000 because some dude was hard up on rent, and I had offered him more the month before. And he goes, just take it for $2,000. I mean, nobody gets a Forerunner for $2,000. It's like on and on and on. Yeah. And it's only because, it's not because I'm graced. I've earned every fucking thing I've ever made in my life. I've earned. It's because of quantum physics. It's because of getting smart enough to understand how energy moves in the universe.
Oh, so good. Can you talk a little about timelines? So someone goes, okay, but I focused on the truck for 56 seconds and then I think I acted on the thing, but why don't I have it yet? I think this is where people get caught up. So maybe the visioning is clear, but then timelines. So I can use myself as an example. I'm opening a hotel in Mexico. I don't have the hotel right now. You know, we're in the process of these things. And where I get caught up transparently is the money part of, we need to raise this much money to do the thing. So I'm constantly in this kind of deprogramming around how these things can happen and the when. I don't know if there's a question here, but yeah, I guess around timeline. And I also think if someone goes, oh, here's your hotel tomorrow, I wouldn't be ready for it. I'm really trusting that there's a process and when and how these things happen. But I think it draws back to the first question around the urgency in which we want things.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. Obviously, again, it comes back to our culture and how we've gotten more hooked on instant gratification. It's like, there's an app, I want it now. That's another reason why I love living in the country, because you don't get that. The stores open late, they close early. There's one of them. You can't order shit. You know, so I kind of like, it's like, well, you ain't got it at home. You just don't have it, right? So the instant gratification game, we need to kind of like, you know, get off that junk. It's not helping. Yes. So with that said, you kind of almost answered it. There's two things I got to say, which is one is that, so it's one step at a time. And then, okay, so we want to manifest one step at a time, right? So in this scenario, I did the truck. It's not like I need to go build the truck. Like, that's just 1 degrees of separation, if you will. It's like, there's a truck, I could just own the truck, right? Where like something like more dynamic, like you talked about, there's a lot of steps in between, like say here in hotel, right? It's like, we got to get some land. Okay, we got to get, so you want to take it one step at a time in the appropriate order, and then just only do the manifestation for the next step, and then do the action item. And then do the visualization for the next step, and then do the action items, and then do, right? So you want to do it like that. And the action items, again, that occur to you when you're in neutral space. I call that trance. So if I ever say trance, that's all I mean is that you're grounded in your body in neutral. So you want to make sure that you're not doing shit from your mind. That's programmed. It's limited. You've already overthought it. It's like, I've let the whole thing go, and I'm just in the vision of me in the truck right now, right? And then it goes, oh, like I said, look on Craigslist really quick, right? So that's, again, you've got to pay attention to that. And one thing at a time is crucial. And and I'm a big list maker. I love a good bullet pointed list, right? So I'm not grinding up here like, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. And as you see, I like to only kind of hold one thing in my mind at a time. I'm like, you're going to have to remind me the other thing I was going to say. Totally. So one thing at a time is crucial, everybody. Okay. Crucial. The second part of that is, as far as timing goes, is, and I like this sort of like how it connects back to the broader topic today, that life knows what we need when we need it. I want to put that on a banner and fly it over the beach, like those planes that fly around with messages. I'm like, life knows what you need when you need it. Calm the fuck down and just receive it as it comes. Yeah. And it's funny because, as a fun story here, and I won't take too long, but I've taught these tools for a lot of years now, and way years back, maybe this was one of my 2011, 2012 happenings, right? So, but I taught it in 2010. So I was just like I just did it real time with you guys. So I just did, and this time it was a Z. I like cars. I don't have a bunch, but I like them, you know? So I was like, I want a 370Z. I didn't really want one at the time. I had a car at the time. I had a relationship at the time. We didn't need an extra car, but I did it in class, you know, for fun. And I was like, that would be fun. Fuck that, you know? And so, true story, 2 years later, when I did go to get a car, I was like, okay, I was breaking up with my girlfriend. I needed to move out. I needed to get my own car again. You know, we were just sharing a car. It made sense. So I go to the car dealership, right? And I forgot all about this. I forgot all about it. And I certainly, and this is 100% true, did not show up at the dealership that day thinking, oh, I'm going to leave here with a 370Z. I forgot. It wasn't even on my friggin' radar these 2 years later, right? And I'm just looking for something conservative, like, I don't know, some Altima or some shit, right? And this is true. The car salesman goes, what? And I was, dressed in my dress and my tits and my earrings and all my whole bedang-a-dang. I know how to go buy cars. You look hot, right? That's what you do. So he goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you looking at these cars? And he literally goes, why don't you drive something like that? And he points to this Z on the lot. And I was like, hold the phone. And I started to come back to him. I was like, I did used to want to drive one of those. So, you know how the story goes, I left the lot with a black Z that day. And I didn't even fucking remember about it. So, timing is about, I didn't need it then. Yeah. Life knows what we need when we need it. And I didn't need it. It would have been a total pain in my ass. I'd have been like, my girlfriend, but like, what are you doing with this sports car that just sits in the driveway? Like, we co-commute to work. Like, it would have just been a total burden. It would have made no sense at the time. When I did get it though, it put me on the fast track, literally, to freedom. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So timing.
Yeah. And I love how this idea of coming back to the vision, and this is something that I feel like you do with Bill and I a lot, is like we get so caught up in all of the logistics and the things that need to get done. And so I'll call, be like, what about this? And you're like, what about the vision? Like, I'm like, but this. You're like, how do you want to feel when you wake up every morning? But I'm like, no, there's all this other stuff that needs to get done. And we want to fight it because we want to like kind of look at the man-made. And I love every time I come to this point, it's like, yeah, the man-made way to do the hotel is this way. And then I call you and you're like, how do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning? And then it shifts instantly.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to create. There's infinite ways as far as I'm aware, right? And so I like kind of a couple of things you mentioned inadvertently, but like even paperwork, like contracts, like, okay, I've got to go buy a house. I got to sign some loan documents, so like actual bureaucracy, right? Yeah. So I do the same thing. I just go like, oh man, the drive's going to be easy to the loan officer's office. She's going to be ready to see me. We're going to knock that out super quick and easy. I'm going to feel super fun about it. No nerves. Look at worry be gone. I'm having a great time. We're going to go celebrate afterwards. You can envision anything. You just set the tone, man. You just, and to touch on quantum physics quickly, why I keep referencing that is because, and there's a lot of, this is one tiny aspect, but the one I'm referring to, which is that they know that the intention affects the energy. I saw this thing a million years ago. I wouldn't even know how to reference it or how to direct people, but if we ever come across it, it's so cool. Where they took a board, right? They took a flat black board and they sliced out just a little shape in the middle, a hole in the middle, and like a long shape. And they just shot molecules at the board. That's all they did. And then they saw on the other side of the board, right, through the hole they had created, what shape got created. So board, hole, shot molecules, and then they were like, oh, what arrangement did the molecules go through that hole in? First time when it was just neutral, it was just like the medium, and there's nobody in the room, they just did it is shot in the shape of the holes. All the molecules they shot through went in the shape of the hole, right? I know it's not that great at this, but I'm gonna just kind of fumble fuck through it anyway because it's so game changing for perception. Then they brought another dude in, so there's a control, and then they, as in all experiments, and they bring the first like sort of experimental differentiator in. So they bring a dude in, a scientist, and he observes this energy shooting through. So there's no observer before. This time there's an observer. The molecules took a different arrangement. Pulled that guy out, brought another guy in, yet a different arrangement, right? Similar, I think, entirely to the concept of the water experiment where they label the water and you can actually see the molecules change. That's quantum physics. Yes. The intention of the creator, the intention of the observer affects the matter, right? So that's really clenched to all of this, that where your thoughts, all this stuff affects the manifestation, affects the matter. So I got lost on the quantum physics trail. Will you bring me back?
Yeah, I was really interested in that
I'm
story
a real
too.
nerd for that shit.
No, I love it. Well, I was just thinking of just other examples. I remember one time I was like trying to they had like closed my bank account in Canada that I don't use anymore. And I tried to access it. And anyways, I was calling Revenue Canada, which is like the IRS here, again and again. I couldn't get through to this woman, Mary. It was 3 months trying to get to this fucking woman, Mary. And finally, I just in session with you one time, I was like, I'm trying to get a hold of this woman. You were like, well, did you ask, just go into trance and ask her to call you back? And I was like, okay, hang up the phone, go into meditation. And I'm like, Mary, call me back. Literally the phone rings. And I was like, and then we cleared the issue in 5, like it was like 2. Oh, hi, Allie. So sorry. Yeah, I know this has been a pain in the ass. It's all done now. And I was like, what? I just spent 3 months trying to track this woman down, talk to every operator on the planet to figure this one thing out. And then I just talked to her in the ether.
Yeah. Energy work first, action second. Energy work first, action second. I mean, if there's nothing else anybody takes away today, it's like, you guys, we got to stop with all this like, move, do. I know you're going to feel weird about yourself for a while, but energy work first, action second.
Yeah. That's been huge, because even when I look at the course of what we've talked about, this is what been my journey in the last 2 years, quitting a corporate job, coming back to so much time and freedom, how to be disciplined with my thoughts, and then how to create something that I truly want. And so all of this feels incredibly relevant. And I know to the community too, because so many people that I work with or listen to the podcast are entrepreneurs or are people that want to create. So I just think this piece is so relevant, because when you're working in a corporate job, there's a certain way to do things in the man-made world. And then how we end up, so then we go and create things like in that man-made way versus the energy work first. And I was thinking about this around, selling spots for retreat. And it was like, yeah, you just put the link up and people purchase it. And then you had me do something maybe 6 months ago, was like, write the contract with these people. They never need to see the contract, but who do you want to attract? Who are your students? Who shows up? And so it really is a shift in paradigm for all of us learning this is exactly what you said. The energy work comes first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
energy work first. Yeah. And that's another way of saying consciousness first, because as we established, love, vital life, first energy, consciousness, God, the universe, existence, it's all the same thing. Yeah. So consciousness first. And what's nice about this is like, there's a kind of a lot of like, I think a lot of people are spending a lot of time with the burden of needing to figure out what the fuck to do, right? What should I do? What's my calling? What should I do right now? What should I do with my free time? What should I do with my kid? Like this like ever ending, what should I do with myself question, right? So what's nice about this manifestation process that we've taught, the 2 steps, visualize, act, is it's like, if that car was detrimental for me, for my consciousness, for the balancing of my own life, right? Because again, we already established life has no concerns but other than remaining perpetual, and it requires balance to perpetuate itself, right? Mm-hmm. So if that car was going to throw me so out of balance, right, in some way, or would have interrupted my life balance, it wouldn't have come in because of the principles of life. So when you give it over to consciousness, if it ain't for your balance, if it's not for do you deserve it? Not if you were like on Santa's fucking good list this year. None of that shit, man. If it's in alignment with perpetuated balance, it'll come in, right? Yeah. So that's what's nice about that tool too, is that we can like, I don't know what's best for Aimee. I don't even get bothered in that, because how am I supposed to know? It's too big. There's too many options. There's too many factors. There's too many people. There's too many unknowns. So Aimee and her program thinking, I would never trust Aimee to fucking do that. She's smart. Great. No, I don't know shit. I don't know anything. I don't know shit. I only know what I've been programmed to think. I only know what I already know in the mind. So this is what's nice about these types of techniques, about energy work first, is you just kind of, my language, I say, I just give it up to the goddess. I'm like, I don't know what you know. So I'm thinking a black truck. What are you guys thinking? Is that cool for you? Like, meaning consciousness is like, we got you, boo. So if it doesn't arrive, it means throw it away, man, and fucking give it up, because it's not for your highest and best. Forget about it. It's not for your balance. Move on to something different. And that, I think, is where we get stuck up too, because of our big egos and our big want. I want this, and I don't care and we're willing to suffer. Those people are out there working their jobs, willing to suffer just so they can buy some bougie shit on the weekend. And fine. I mean, I'm not going to say don't do that. I'm just going to say the day when you really want to murder all your coworkers and yourself, maybe we'll talk about it then. Yes. Like that road of just like creating money just to have things runs out for everybody. I've never met one person that is just like, love that, did that my whole life, never stressed out, never had a relationship problem, my kids are amazing. On my deathbed, I would do it all again the same way. I've never one time had a person. They're like, oh, it wasn't worth it, dude. How do I get out of my mortgage? I'm like, yeah, let's start to dismantle all the shit you bought. That's usually what happens eventually.
Yeah.
So we can have a lot of prosperity. We can have possessions. Yeah. I'm a creature comfort person. I keep a whole house just to myself. I own land. I have all the things in life anybody would want. I have money in the bank. I fucking have, assets. I don't know. It's not about living like a poor monk. You can live however the fuck you want. It's a matter of how to create what it is that you want and put it into the now, put it into the have. And then also simultaneously creating consciousness so you get out of the want to where you realize, oh my God, I'm so grateful for what I have. And I'll just add that cherry on top. I'm grateful for what I have. And rattling that off is a great manifestation tool. I'm so grateful for this beautiful, safe, spacious house I have. And then no matter what house you are living in, it will match that criteria. So grateful for what I have is just, if there's nothing else on manifestation, just do that because it works. Yeah.
And does that also help us deal with the unknown? Because I feel like that's what I hear so much is like, but there's so much unknown. Maybe that can be our last sort of touch point, the unknown.
Yeah, I don't know what even is known. I mean, we spit some concepts out today. I don't know. We bullshitted today. We had a fun time on the podcast today, but I don't know how we would define what we do know. This is what is observational. This is what we can observe. We can put it to the test. We can see what result we get. And, but this obsession with the need to understand and the need to know is hubris. It suggests that we could know. I don't know, man. Again, I even was the smartest kid and I don't know shit. And that's just an acceptable fact. And in fact, it's amazing for anybody out there that's relying on their, all the shit they read in books and then they can go to a party and see how smart they are or whatever. Whatever. My ex-wife would always say that. She's like, God, I love meeting you because I used to always try and know things so I could seem smart. And she's all, just made me seem like a dick. And I'm all, I guess in her case, that was totally true, or mansplaining, right? Yeah. Like that's one of the fun terms. It's like, we don't need to know. And it's cute that we think we can, like even like sometimes the scientists will be like, the animals do this because of this and that. And I'm like, yeah, some stuff like, okay, a squirrel's gathering a nut for winter. That's observable. You can kind of connect them dots pretty reasonably. But sometimes they'll talk about like some of their other behavior about why they're doing what they're doing. I'm like, you don't fucking even know that. Like, no. There's not even a way to study some of that. It's like, why a cat purrs. Like, all right, we can create some conjecture, but we don't know anything. So I think the real way to answer that question, aside from all my silliness, is accept that you don't know and you're not going to know. And that's just not how life works. That's why it's so crucial to remain in present time and to listen to present time. Because present time does know, because life does know, because God does know. So if we listen to life or the moment or God or consciousness, again, it's all the same thing, then you know what step to take next. And that just simply has to become enough.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's so good. I'm like, right, we're in a podcast. This isn't a session. I'm just like, I should take notes, but I'll listen to this after. Is there anything else you feel like you want to add to this conversation before we go? Is there anything else that people need to hear?
Well, and I like kind of as the last little thread here is like, then drop the need to understand, if I could, like, it's such a thing. We waste so much time on session being like, you don't need to know why. Just do this thing. You don't need to know why. And we can't know why. Just like, And the other thing is get off the future. I mean, especially since last podcast to now, I'm just like, everybody that's on the phone, I'm like, listen, you guys, stop. You gotta stop. It's not, the future never comes and it's only ever right now. So again, there's a lot of takeaways I know from all these, the channels got a lot of stuff in it all the time. But if we drop the need to understand and we focus on the now instead of the future, that right there, I think it does a lot of heavy lifting in and of itself. You have to accept present time for what it is and move accordingly based on what you know about yourself. Accept circumstance, people, life in present time, and move accordingly based on on your own consciousness. And final note, consciousness equals self-awareness. So none of this is for self-improvement. None of this is because any of you need to be improved. You're all perfect. The moment is perfect. Life knows what life needs. Life knows what we need. It's all perfect right now. We're the ones that throw ideas in that we need to be improved. And that's all too trendy in the healing community, the healing arts. Yeah. We don't need to be improved. We need to know ourselves. What am I supposed to be different than I am? So fucking put it in the comments. I've heard people say, I don't know what that means, but like, meaning we are who we are, right? And we're obviously not all robots. We're obviously completely different from each other in these certain ways. So it's not about hitting a goal. I need to be this, or I need to be that, or I need to, it's like, no, you need to know who the fuck you are and live accordingly. I know that I'm impatient sometimes with people. And so I, like I said, when I'm grumpy and impatient, I just don't go put that on people. I go, today's a home day because I'm impatient and I'm edgy as fuck. And I don't want to contribute that to the whole. They don't need that today. So I'll just tap out today, right? So know thyself equals consciousness is the goal.
Oh, I love you so much.
We always have so much fun. You're so fun.
I know. It's so wonderful. Thank you for saying yes and coming back on and in such a short amount of time too, because I really feel that this information needs to be shared now, obviously, and to as many people as possible. And I love your delivery. And I think it's so useful for people to hear a delivery like this, that just feels really true and honest and real. And, you're someone that we all can kind of relate to. I think it just doesn't feel like it's coming the way I experience this. It's like in my body versus like you read this shit or some guru says this shit and you're like, I don't really know, but you're really tangibly making it make sense for us. And it's such a massive contribution. So thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah. I like it too, because a lot of this we can cover here and then we don't have to waste people's precious paid time. It's like, listen to this, you guys, and then we can get to your creation. I always tell people that, and I'll be quiet now, but instead of coming in at a deficit, people come in at a deficit. They need all this information to create a new foundation. Once we get that foundation, I always tell people, I'm like, that's when the fun starts. We can get to creating. Let's create your business. Let's create your marriage. Let's create some babies. I don't know, whatever people want to create. So for what it's worth, it's nice to have a platform instead of people having to pay that fancy reading rate. It's like, dude, you listen to this, get this stuff working, and then we can get to your particular desires, your particular creations, your particular healing. So that's more, I like that, instead of having to repeat the same thing a million times. I think it's just more efficient for people as well.
Totally. I think even with the last one, I was looking at some comments or what people had said. It's like, I've listened to this 3 times and I've taken all the notes. It's like, do that first. And then if you want to work with Aimee, then you can actually get to like you said, it's the fun stuff. Like I love to call and chat about the vision versus like, I'm scared today. It's like, okay, like get over that, move forward and get brave. And then we can get to creating. And that's really, you're so masterful at that, at the actual supporting of the vision. So these are just such like beautiful, free, efficient pieces where people can learn. And then if they didn't listen to the first one, definitely go listen to that one. But if people want to work with you, I shared this last time, feel free to DM me and I can send Aimee's phone number and I can put it in the show notes to your website. Is there any other way or thoughts on last time of how that flow worked for you? Because I know that you probably got bombarded.
I did. My favorite way is just a text message. I think I got to everybody's email, but the email comes to me slower up here on the mountain. Sometimes it'll take a couple hours. So pass that number out. It's fine. It is my work phone. It dings all day. It started dinging at 3 a.m. today, so you're not going to bother me. Just hit me up and I will get back to you. I love a text.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Aimee. Thank you for being here. So much love. And I'm just reflecting that of all the people that have listened to the podcast and will listen to this podcast. There's just so much gratitude for your contribution.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity to be in service. Love you guys.
Love you.
And bye. How do I do it? Leave.